And then lastly, Blunty, in It's Barely News, I've been hearing a lot of talk. And I know we usually try to stay out of politics, but we specifically do touch on drone-related politics. And I've been hearing a lot of talk out of Ukraine about drones being used in the effort there, and not just military drones, but consumer drones. Some people talking about flying FPV drones, some people talking about flying DJI drones. And I sent a bunch of, people keep submitting these stories. And I feel like there's something here to talk about. Although you have a little bit of an objection that I feel like we should acknowledge before we talk about it.
Sure. I mean, I just don't feel like these are the kind of stories that I feel like don't have a lot of substance. I mean, if you want me to say that, like, I don't know, like, these are things that are hard to verify. And in a time where people want a lot of good information about a war that they want to be on the good side of, it's very easy to post stories that aren't fully verified, that you might vet harder in times of not war.
Absolutely. Absolutely valid. In fact, I would start with one of these first ones as an example of the sort of difficulty of getting accurate information. There's been a statement that DJI aeroscope was being used by the Russian military. There was a claim that DJI specifically shut down Ukrainian aeroscope so they couldn't use it, and basically implied that DJI was supporting Russia against Ukraine. Then DJI denied it. And this is one of those stories that who knows the truth? We don't. But here's what I think is interesting and worthy of talking about. I absolutely believe that both Russia and Ukrainian soldiers are using DJI hobby drones in the field. Like, I don't have proof of that. I just am so sure that's true.
Yes.
Right?
I definitely agree with that. Yes.
And it's so interesting, and then that these hobby tools are so useful that professional militaries with access to professional military technology still find a hobby drone that you can buy at Best Buy to be effective. And that's just really as profound that these toys that we're playing with have that capability.
It seems to be a large combination of like military and consumer and hobby built and kind of basically whatever anybody can get their hands on. In these situations, it seems like too.
Yeah. So. And then you end up with this aeroscope technology, which is designed to protect commercial institutions, government institutions from hobbyist drones, basically to stop people from flying drugs into your prison or stop people from flying over your sporting event. And then if you're going to use a hobby drone to do military reconnaissance, or I've even heard unverified stories, but I've heard stories of them being used to drop grenades or explosives. At that point, now you have a hobbyist countermeasure technology that isn't built to military standards and is being used in that way. It's a strange world that we're living in. We also have some reports here, and again, it's difficult to know what's true, but it is plausible. We have reports here that there are like FPV drone pilots who are working and using FPV drones for these things. And here they specifically talk about soldiers equipped with night vision goggles, sniper rifles, and drones capable of dropping small 1.5 kilogram bombs. And we got this drone here. Doesn't look like an FPV drone. Looks like and although it's impossible to know the actual truth of this, it is not implausible that it's true. Sure. That's very interesting. Here's a story about this drone here. This guy was on Fox Business, I think, one of these guys. This stuff is coming. This stuff is coming.
Yeah, I think regardless of how the actual facts land in this stuff, a lot of the thing people are going to see from this is the first major conflict that's been fought with drones. That has had drones as a large major part of it. because the technology has advanced so much in both the hobbyists and the commercial spaces. So, yeah, it's difficult because, like we talked about, if you can't get that good of information, or you're getting different parts of different sides, and people are blaming large companies, and there are these systems used to find people, and there's so many good and bad stories. It's hard to know what the actual shakeout will be. Uh, what the takeaway people will see from this is, because
Yeah.
obviously the drones are going to be needed as countermeasures because the bad people are going to decide not to use drones, so that's going to be a thing for a long time.
Right.
And in this case, it seems like the hobbyist drones have been a huge help and success. So I don't know. It's hard to know.
And there are people who see this and say, well, this is not going to help our case with the FAA. When the FAA sees a story about someone using consumer drones to weaponize them against military, people think the FAA will be like, oh, no. But here's the thing, guys. I've been saying since remote ID started to become a thing, pretty much, that the motivation here is not just the Jeff Bezos and the Elon Musks of the world. It's not just commercial interests, it is security interests, that Department of Homeland Security and other defense sort of organizations are concerned about these exact capabilities that people are talking about in Ukraine. So the FAA already has been freaking out about this for the last 2 years, and not just the FAA, but the DHS and other organizations that motivate them. So you actually are the one who just sort of woke up. If you looked at this and you said, wow, this is new information, boy, this is really going to freak the FAA out. No, they were already freaked out. You're the one who is actually just waking up, unfortunately. And this is what I've been talking about for the last 2 years when I've been saying that this is the true motivation. Not, I'm sure the commercial interests are in there too, but this is the true motivation for remote ID and the other regulations that have come down the pike. So the good news, I guess, is that it's not going to get any worse because of this.
Yeah,
it was already this bad.
I don't think it will get any worse. I think this is where this is like the first. We've talked before about like, hey, there's some dude doing something stupid with the drone, and that's in the news. And for me, that doesn't really move the dial on public opinion. This is the kind of thing that moves the dial on public opinion. This is where like major groups of people will, like you said, wake up and see that like, hey, this is happening and these are this possible, and everybody has this technology. And yeah, like I said, I just don't know how it will shake out, whether the overall sentiment will be better or worse, or whether much will change because of this. Right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's very interesting to see where it goes. But I feel like it certainly has to be acknowledged. And that's why I wanted to do this segment. Nothing about this is, no one who's in the world of FPV looks at these stories and says, oh, you could drop something from a drone. We've been doing that for years. Sure, drones are useful for various things, including reconnaissance and so forth. But to see that all playing out in such a visible way on such a world stage, I think has to be acknowledged as at least a watershed moment in some way. So, all righty. Well, we'll see what comes of that. We don't know.